Now, depending on the study you look at, 1 in 7 families has a dependent with disabilities, and 80% of those families are unchurched.
Welcome to God at Work, stories of calling, courage, and conviction. Through real stories and meaningful conversations, we'll discover how God shows up in the boardroom, the job site, and beyond. Here's your hosts, Gina Ventola and Adam Kemper.
Welcome to God at Work. Today, we're joined by Nate Wertz. Nate is the executive director of the Heroes Club. He is driven by faith and family, a kingdom-minded entrepreneur who God called out of the marketplace to the mission field. He now dedicates his leadership to strategically serving and advancing the gospel in the disability community, the world's most underreached population. Nate, thanks for joining us this morning.
Hey, thanks for having me, Gina and Adam. I appreciate it.
Nate, we're so glad you're here. And I love the part in your bio about reaching the underserved community. That's a big one for me. So thank you in advance for what you do.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a big blessing to my life to be and spend time with the disability community. And I mean, 10 plus years of volunteering and leading and consulting in the space. And then God just grew that burden in my heart to step out and leave the marketplace to pursue this full time. And it's been a wild ride, but it's been good, and God's been in it.
Well, Nate, let's drill down on that. You know, our show is called God at Work.
Yeah.
What does that phrase mean to you?
Oh, I mean, I think it's our entire lives of God's been at work before creation. He's been at work for the last several millennia and will continue to be at work long past any of us walk this earth. And I think that, I mean, God's at work in everything, whether it's nature, the nice rain that we so desperately need right now, in each of our individual lives, of how God works and speaks in and through us to encourage us, love us, but also use us to encourage and love those around us and those we come in contact with. And we're dwelling in and living in his creation. So God's at work all around us.
I love that.
Yeah.
Would you share a little bit about Heroes Club?
Yeah. So after spending, like I mentioned, the last, I guess, 11 years now, in some volunteer capacity, some leadership capacity, and consulting capacity within the disability community, God continued to grow this burden in my heart for families affected by disability. And so Heroes Club launched with the mission of advancing the gospel in the disability space by equipping local churches to create belonging for these families. After so many years of volunteering and helping other organizations, I saw a huge need and a huge gap with the local church and the local churches. Maybe not necessarily ability, but emphasis, maybe a better word, of their emphasis on caring for the disability community. And so my background was in business and nonprofit church work. And after working for years to try and convince a couple organizations and different groups to equip the church to serve this community, I think it's right now, depending on the study you look at, 1 in 7 families has a dependent with disabilities, and 80% of those families are unchurched. So it's the fastest growing, largest unreached community that nobody's talking about. And after years of banging my head against the wall, my wife mentioned at one point, well, maybe God's trying to tell you that it's you. It's your job to go do that. And so we launched to work with churches to help them put the systems and processes in place, provide trainings, and just to provide the care and support with my heart being that they then in turn care for these families that so desperately need somebody to join them, to advocate for them. Which it's funny when you read through the Gospels, and 75 of Jesus' miracles are centered around the disability community, and 1 in 7 families now affected by disability, and 80% are unchurched. Well, why isn't the church desperately going after this community when that was a big part of Jesus' ministry on this earth? And so then, yeah, I feel a burden to advocate to bring these families into the church, and it's been amazing to see how God has used Heroes Club to do. It's been amazing to see the stories of families once they realize, oh, the church is caring for me, and we finally found a home.
You mentioned about the church going after this community. Could there be a reason of fear of the unknown with the church?
I would say that might be part of it. I would say the bigger piece from what I found is the church doesn't realize it. I've talked to so many pastors across the country, so many church groups, so many even missions organizations that have no idea those statistics, which is mind-boggling to me. But again, I've been in the space for a little bit, and once pastors realize, oh my goodness, like there's millions and millions of families across the country. That's just the statistics for the United States, not even worldwide, that, oh, this group doesn't get the attention because they've been marginalized, and then they got tired of advocating for themselves. So they continue to allow themselves to be marginalized, and there's just not enough champions to yell from the rooftops for them. And it's way easier for them to continue to be marginalized. And there's so many other, even good organizations, even good causes that get the headlines a lot of times. And then you look at this group and you're like, oh wow, it's the largest unreached group. And again, Jesus spent a lot of his time focused on this community. And so coming from the marketplace into the nonprofit space, talking to a church about, well, where's your investment in dollars in terms of, maybe it's a bad way to describe it, but ROI, like you're investing dollars to reach, you say, the unreached. You say that you're trying to model your ministry after Jesus. Well, 75% of these miracles were to the disability community, and 80% of those 1 in 7 families is unchurched. I mean, when there's a market segment like that in the marketplace, business leaders tend to, I mean, the bells are going off. We have to go after these. We have to go after this group. And so then when I am able to educate church leaders and they start to wake up to the realization that, how could we have missed this? How could we have missed this? Yeah.
I mean, I'm sitting over here a little flabbergasted because I've never thought about it in those terms. I've never thought about Jesus's ministry targeted the disabled. But you're 100% right. The miracles of healing didn't come to those who didn't have a disability. He was healing deformed hands and the blindness and all of these things that we now put under that label. I've never thought about it that way, and I can't imagine that I am the only one. You probably encounter that as a pretty common thing. Yeah, I mean, not just underserved, but overlooked, unfortunately, even by myself. That's a huge blind spot I wasn't thinking about.
Yeah, and
I can take it a step further. Those people with those disabilities, they were not allowed, they were considered unclean. They weren't allowed to go inside the temple. They were not allowed to go inside and worship.
Yeah.
And so that's why you see so many of them, like the leper that he he had healed 10 leper, or he healed, sorry, the man who was blind. And there was this big argument about whether he was blind from birth or if he was blind from sin that his parents had committed. Where did they find him? He was in the temple, because that was probably the first time. I mean, you see it time and time again in there. When they go and find these people, they find them in the temple.
Mm, yeah.
I mean, imagine that ability, being able to be considered clean in the Old Testament sense, that just boggles my mind. And then now, of course, Jesus made us all clean because he died for all of our sins.
Yeah.
They're not unclean. They should be able to enter the church still. And so there's once again a barrier to them being able to enter the church. And I guess that's where I think Heroes Club definitely fills that underserved community.
Yeah. My heart is to create belonging within the church so that these families, these individuals feel like they belong, because they do, and they should. And so working with churches and helping them see that it's not about even including these families, it's about helping them feel like they belong, like they have a place there. And it's not an overnight thing, so it's fun to see the progression with the churches that I'm currently working with I'm working with them and plan to be working with each of my partner churches for a long time, knowing that it's really about a culture shift within the church. And so it is a gradual process for these families to feel that way, for that trust to be built. But it's exciting to see God open eyes, which, I mean, by the grace of God, he opened my eyes years ago, that now I'm just humbled to be in the position that I am to help educate churches, and not only educate churches and tell them, hey, there's this huge need, you need to be doing something about it, but you're not alone, and I'm gonna walk with you in this. I'm not just telling you of a need. I'm here to help you find a solution.
So what kind of scenarios or ideas do you give churches in building this ministry?
Yeah, I mean, I always start with any church. All right, what's your mission and vision? Which almost every church has: to reach the lost, to reach the unreached. And so then I start breaking it down to show them how this fits that. And then it's do you have any families in your current congregation or members that are affected by disability? And if they say no, I'm like, look again. I guarantee you do.
Right.
And then it's okay. Let's start off with how can we help serve the families that are currently coming to your church? Are they children? Are they teens? Are they young adults? Are they adults? Are they elderly? And then let me help you create a program or a system or process to serve who's already coming to your church. And then working out from that to, okay, we can look at the statistics of your area, and we can start putting in place some things to start adapting, whether it's just offering a simple buddy program, so just a one-on-one buddy for children's ministry, so that an individual with disabilities, intellectual or developmental, can have that other additional support. And you can do the same with youth ministry. You can do the same with just a traditional Sunday morning gathering, for any individual with disabilities to know, hey, I have a person here that is going to care for me, love me. Their family knows we have somebody that is going to care for us and love us. But I always start with who's currently coming to your church, and I try to show up to those churches and I'll help them see. And then it's okay, now let's broaden it to expand into all aspects of every ministry. I don't think it's a disability ministry isn't something that should be a one-off ministry. It should be something that's interwoven into all areas of a church's ministry, and it can be easily bolted onto what's already happening, and then integrating serve teams and giving these individuals and families dignity to, hey, they have a heart and gift to serve others as well. So how about bringing them into that and allowing them to serve the church? Because these families don't just want to be served. And that's where part of the belonging comes in, is no, they want to serve just as much as we all want to serve. And so giving them the platform and ability to do that too.
Well, and I hear exactly what you're saying because I'm living some of it. I belong to a church that's getting really involved in a justice mission
Mm,
where we're looking at different aspects of social, racial, all kinds of outlets of justice. And one of the areas it has opened our eyes to is around disability and ableism and things
mm,
like that, that just sort of are baked in our society, and sort of normalized in the marginalization. So I think in general, these churches that are opening their eyes to any sort of
mm.
marginalization of any group
Yeah.
would probably be very receptive to understanding what your mission that you're supporting is all about, because it definitely, once you're opening your eyes to one thing, it's pretty hard to not see the other areas
Yeah.
where it's people are impacted.
To stay blind to those other areas. Yeah. No.
Yeah, so I've got to imagine that's kind of a hallmark of who those churches are that are working with you. Are they're
Mm,
already looking for ways to serve a justice type mission in the community, and maybe just need another area of it introduced to their thinking.
yeah. I think that's a big part of it. I mean, my prayer has always been like, God, this is your organization. This is like my life is his. I mean, one of our core values is to live surrendered. That every day I wake up like, God, like this day is yours. This organization is yours. My life is yours. And God very quickly, early on launching this, especially coming out of corporate sales, was God saying, I don't need you to sell anybody on this. I mean, we're a free service to churches, so it should be a pretty easy sell anyways. But God, I reached out to one church. We're currently working with 22 churches across the country, and God very quickly said, I'll take care of that. I will bring, like, in this season, I will bring the churches with the heart, and you go above and beyond to serve them well. So, I mean, it's still like the growth of Heroes Club has nothing to do with me. It's all God. God is bringing churches, bringing families that, yeah, we're serving 22 churches across 7 states, and there's over 1,000 families uh, within those disability ministry programs, and it's all God. Like it's all him bringing the right partner churches with the right heart, the right leaders within those churches that are willing to serve, and bringing the families to those churches to be a part of these programs that God's allowed them to build trust with these churches very quickly. And it's been incredible to see God open those doors so quickly.
I love that you mentioned earlier about dignity, because I think that is a huge theme of probably why you do this, to
Mm,
give them dignity, because this is a community, and I speak from personal experience. I'm legal guardian for a loved one. This community, especially in the intellectual disability group, gets taken advantage of a lot,
yeah.
whether it's financial, whether in various ways. And it means a lot to me, Nate, that you were doing this
Mm,
ministry. And I really appreciate you working with churches and helping them. And if not for nothing else, giving the caregivers a break, allowing them to go to attend church, like your buddy system you mentioned. I'm like, well, that would be great because that would allow the caretaker to have a break and be able to enjoy the church service
Mm,
uninterrupted.
yeah, one of my favorite stories from disability ministry is a family coming to a church because they had that buddy system. And this wasn't even one of my partner churches, but talking to the ministry leader at this church, um, a family came because they knew they could get an hour and a half of respite of break and didn't believe in God, had zero religious affiliation, but they showed up because for an hour and a half on Sunday mornings they got a break and could sip a cup of coffee in the lobby of a church and sit on some comfortable chairs, which then led to them making their way into the sanctuary or chapel area, which then led to them listening to more and more of the sermons, which then led to them being baptized over time. Their one point of entry was, well, the church is caring for me in this area, so we're gonna go be served in this way. But that was, yeah, God just using that to bring these families into the church. And I hear story after story of families that either have never been to church or it's been 10 plus years since they've been in a church that are now feeling like they can. Like that wasn't a reality before. And now they're able to sit through a worship service. And I can't imagine that just not being a possibility for me or my family. That is just second nature, that I grew up with that. My family's always had that. And for it to just not be an option or feel like an option, yeah, it's heartbreaking. So then waking up every day with, man, the more that I do to equip churches, the more one more family gets to walk through the doors of a church. How could I not want to sprint and hustle after that?
So, Nate, with that said, you mentioned, what was it, 80%
Yeah.
of the families in that have disabled loved ones are unchurched. Where does the church seek them?
I don't think you have to seek them too hard.
I mean, I'm sure there's some that are in the congregation, but I'm talking about the ones who aren't. Where
Yeah,
do they find them?
I would say you don't have to look too hard. One of my I just had a call with a director at a church, and she called saying, which I have this conversation with every church that I partner with, saying, "Hey, my prayer is that you get flooded with families affected by disability. Like that is my prayer." And I had a church call, "Hey, Nate, we have 8 new families coming next Sunday." Like grew by grew by 8 new families affected by disability in a matter of 3 weeks that were saying, "Hey, we want to be served." So I think because the disability community, it's so tight knit, because there's so much just shared burden of, we have to get through this together. Word of mouth spreads very, very quickly. And the moment that a family truly feels connected to a church, truly feels like their church cares for them, that they belong, I mean, that's the best marketing I guess the church can do, is just by showing up in that one sense, and those families will find them. I've always, in my 11 years being in this community, serving this community, I have never once had any organization or any event struggle to find families to serve. because it is 1 in 7. Like that's a big percentage of our neighborhoods. So the moment a church says, we want you here, which a lot of times I tell churches, it can start that simple. Say, you want these families here. You desire for them to be in your church, and tell them you'll figure everything else out, but you want them there. That's the families just want you to open the door for them and want you to want them there. And so word spreads rapidly. And so I've never seen a church uh, struggle to invite families once they say, "Hey, you belong here." Then families, and because a lot of times you don't even know the families within the church that are affected by disability, that maybe they have half their family you've never met because they're staying home because they don't feel welcomed, or maybe they have a relative. Like, you open that invitation up to the church, and there's a wide pool of clients, if you will, that would love to be part of the church. So I don't think you have to. I've never seen anybody have to look very hard. It's more just opening that door, and these families are so desperate as they battle hopelessness and isolation that, yeah, they would love an invitation in.
So you mentioned isolation. Nate, speak to that family out there who feels isolated.
I mean, my heart breaks for them, for you, for anybody that feels like they don't have somebody advocating for them, that they don't feel welcomed in a church. And I meet with at least one family a week affected by disability. So I do work very hard to stay close to that. And I know many families that don't feel welcome in churches, and I'm trying to find them church homes. I would say, don't give up on the church. I think the church is collectively waking up. I mean, it's a slow process, and it's years and years to, I don't want to say too late, because nothing's ever too late. God's at work. But yeah, reach out to me. I'll help you find a church. I'll share in that story with you, and let you know that, man, the enemy loves isolation and loves to tell you that you're the only one facing it. And so bringing you into a community of so many others that have felt or still feel isolated, so that you know that you're not alone. You're not alone. And it saddens me that there's so many that feel isolated, but there is comfort in the fact, okay, like, we're not alone, and we can come together and realize that we're not the only ones feeling like this, and
Well,
there's things being done.
I can feel deeply what you're talking about because I'm a person who's struggled with the church. I've never had a problem with faith in God.
Yeah.
Sometimes man leaves us wanting, and
Always.
yeah, exactly. And that's not on God. And so
Mm,
these folks that are searching for a place to have a relationship with God, I'm sure it's a challenge because
yeah.
it's one of those where, you have a heart for God, God has a heart for you. Let's find a place where you feel safe in that because man's weakness and brokenness can sometimes leave people feeling excluded. So I think that's
Yeah.
really beautiful and something I feel deeply related to as a person who's sometimes struggled with that in my own life. I can only imagine the depths of it in that situation. Thank you.
I would say everybody that I've ever met in my entire life has experienced isolation or the feeling of isolation at some point in their lives. I mean, that's what the enemy works so hard to tell all of us. Hey, you're the only one going through this. You're the only one that has experienced this. and it continues to isolate it when, I mean, it is a lie. Like, we all experience, Adam, to your point, isolation in various ways and in various areas of our life. That no, we're not alone. We're not the only ones going through this. We do have shared experience. Even if that experience can look slightly different, there's still shared experience. And I think it's uniting and removing that power that the enemy has to slip those lies in. That, oh, the more that we link arms and band together, the more we realize the truth of, no, like, we do have, like, God has created us for community. But it still takes a lot of strength to fight through that isolation.
Nate, with that said, what would you like our audience to walk away knowing about Heroes Club?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, one, being aware of the ginormous need that 1 in 7 families across the United States is affected by disabilities, and 80% of those families are unchurched. This isn't a small, just because it's not talked about or not as popular. It is a massive population of people, and that 75% of Jesus' miracles were centered on this community. And if Jesus felt like this community deserved 75% of his miracles, then I would say that he placed significant value on this vulnerable population. And so Heroes Club is working to advocate for these individuals, for these families. And so I want people to see the need. I want people to be encouraged that there are organizations that are going after these families, to serve these churches and these families, and know our heart is to create belonging for these families to feel like they have a home in the local church.
Well, Nate, thank you so much for coming on our show. Would you pray us out?
Yes, be absolutely honored to. Dear Heavenly Father, I just come before you and just thank you for Adam and Gina, and just, God, their heart for showcasing and encouraging you at work in our world, in our community. God, I just thank you for the opportunity to share about Heroes Club and what you've called me to and laid on my heart. God, I just pray that you will continue to bless this podcast, God. And as Gina mentioned, maybe even before the show, God, if this podcast reaches one more person for you, then it was all worth it, and all glory be to you, God. God, I just pray that you will encourage each of us and allow each of us to see this vulnerable population with your eyes, God. And I just pray that you continue to open our eyes for what you have for us, God, and allow us to serve those around us to the best of our ability, God, and to glorify your name and the work and the ministry that we do in our lives. God, we love you and just thank you for the opportunity of another day. In your name, amen.
This is God at Work, reminding you to lead with faith, serve with purpose, and live out your calling. Until we meet again, keep walking boldly in your faith, at work and beyond, and remember, your business is your ministry.